The following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tally Olson. I am back. You are comfortably zoned with me, the Zog Zag Man in Alameda, California. And this is kind of a shock to me. Tonight I just heard that our guest, Jerry Feitelberg, one of our guests, the other is Matthew DiBiase, and we're having a reunion show. It's been a year since the three of us have been together. Yeah. And Jerry, my condolences, comfortably zoned condolences to you and your family. You tell us about it, Jerry. It was your future son-in-law, your daughter's fiance, that tragically passed away at age 44. What a shock! And
It was a very hard time. It was totally unexpected. It came out of the blue, and because he was 44, he appeared to be in good health. But when these things happen, there's no explanation for it. The doctors say that people who have this condition have a very little chance of survival, and that his death was instantaneous. So he didn't have a long, protracted period of being in a convalescent home or something like that. But it was a shame, and his parents live 8,000 miles away, and getting them here is a problem. But hopefully they'll be here soon. Yeah. And everyone was shocked. He was such a sweet person. He would do anything for everything. When we were together, he would take everything. He said, "No, I'll take care of it for you. I'll do it for you." And it looked like they were going to have a great relationship. They couldn't get married because of the COVID situation, and now things are getting back to normal. And I think they were going to get married later this year, but it didn't happen. So. Yeah, it's just a very, very sad time. Yeah. Really, thank you for the condolences.
Yeah, Jay, there really are no words with something like that.
Not at all. There are no words. I know, man. Just we give you all the love in the world, okay, Jer? Just all the love in the world.
Thank you, Matthew.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
It's going to be difficult, but let's carry on and talk a little politics or current events. What's looming in all of our hearts is a former president of the United States. These words are very important. Former president of the United States indicted on 39 some counts of felony obstruction of justice.
Violations of the Espionage Act. Yeah.
31 counts in the violation of the Espionage Act, right? And
that's right.
The other 7 counts have to do with false statements and obstruction of justice.
Yeah. I mean, what you have here, here he is, playing games with highly classified, extremely sensitive documents, dealing with a potential military action against Iran and various other things that should never have seen the light of day. He could have avoided all of this simply by cooperating with the National Archives and just hand the stuff over, but no, he decided to play his games, and whatever the end game was, we don't know, only he knows. I mean, was it going to be a sellout to the Russians or to some other foreign country, or was he using the documents as a bargaining chip? In other words, if the Biden administration or the special prosecutor gets too close, in other words, if you come after me, I expose all this and really, rock, our standing in the world. I mean, was it a bargaining chip? Whoever it is, the whole thing stinks.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct, Matthew. I agree. I think he was using it for a bargaining chip, whether it was to get a deal to build the Moscow Tower, give Putin the information, or give the Saudis the information. You know, the Saudis have had issues with the Iranians. Well, whatever it was he was up to no good. He left office with all these boxes. Nara asked to have them returned, and all he had to do is send it back. And I'm sure if there was any personal stuff in the boxes, Nara would have returned them to them, and nothing would have been said. It'd be over. But the way he did it, he gave them some and said it was all. And Nara knew that wasn't true. They knew it wasn't true. They asked him repeatedly to give them back. And then they had, remember they sent Jay Bratt down on June 3rd of, was it 2022, I think? And they moved the boxes hid the boxes all through Mar-a-Lago, or they even took them off the property. We don't even know if that happened. We'll find out what happened on that. And they gave them some boxes, figuring that would, and then they certified it. They had the attorneys sign that affidavit saying that they returned everything. And Nara knew that they hadn't, and that's when they got asked the judge for a search warrant, because it was probable cause that they were hiding records.
And here's another thing. Given the sensitivity of the documents, the way they were stored, no security. I mean, there are specifics about how you store classified documents. I can speak from my own professional work experience. I mean, there are protocols that have to be followed when you're storing documents, especially highly classified materials. I mean, the way the storage was a clear-cut violation as well. And his claims, I can declassify any way I want it, even by thinking, he said, that's not the way you declassify records. There are prescribed procedures as to do that. And thinking it is not the way to declassify, and under any circumstances.
Yeah, there are certain ones that have the SCI on it, the special compartmented information, and that has to be in a SCIF. Yeah. It has to be in a special facility. You can't take your cell phone in. There's no pictures. You can't take notes. You can read it. You have to have a security clearance to read that stuff. And there were those were just floating around, and they were in his desk in his bedroom. The cleaning lady could have run over there, and and who knows. And if the adversaries knew, they probably could have had a spy act as a cleaning lady, and she could have funneled information to them. We don't know.
Right.
And they put so many people. They put our troops in jeopardy. They put our spies in jeopardy. They put a lot of people where lives can be lost because of his necessity to be, in his narcissistic mind, the most powerful, the smartest, and whatever he thinks he is, and he's not. He's a coward. He's just unbelievable. I don't know. I've never seen anything like it in my life.
He's a puppet.
Does most of this come from a fragile ego on his part? I mean, he was told he couldn't do something, and he being him, is just simply asserting a little boy's craziness. I don't think, be honest with you, I don't think he had predisposed plans for any of these documents. It was just a matter of having them, being able to show them to his friends, colleagues, people who rented, stayed at Mar-a-Lago. And it was just like, look at me, I haven't lost power. And I think a lot of it comes from him. He doesn't believe he lost the election.
Yeah, it's his delusions and all that. Now, there was a shrink who wrote a book about Trump's psyche and all that, who appeared on Lawrence O'Donnell's show. He made the exact same point that you made, Ralph, and all that. That by keeping the documents, it shows I'm still president. They're still mine and all that, like personal possessions, even though actually it's not really his. It's like presidential papers. I just want to clarify to the audience. It's not like this is my wristwatch, this is my house, and this is my car. The papers are only his when he's actively president. The moment he stops being, or anyone stops being president, it's no longer his or the person involved. Once that term ends, it then becomes the custody of the National Archives, who then organize the records and then decide which records are made available to the general public. And they built a facility, a presidential library, as it were. So no, when he says, "Oh, they're my records," no, they're not. No, they're not at all. It belongs to the office, not to the person. And when you cease being president, it no longer belongs to you. It belongs to the custodians of the office records, which is the National Archives.
Yeah, you make good point. You make good points, Matthew.
1 second, Jerry. I want to ask you both a question.
So, yeah.
He's mentally ill. And could his mental illness be the cause of him getting off? In other words, not getting off, but being found not guilty by, or just, could he use that as a defense when it comes down to it?
No, psychopathic, yes, but insane, no.
Okay.
I don't think so. I don't think he would ever consent to someone saying that he was insane. He would say, I know more than anybody else. I'm perfectly fine.
Yeah, and he knows exactly what he's doing, despite all the psychopathic behavior. Believe me, he knows exactly what he's doing. There's a master plan to this. I mean, he wants to get it all back again, and he wants revenge against those who took him out of office and all of that. I mean, you see his campaign. He said, "I am your retribution. I am your revenge." Just like Hitler. I mean, from 1919 to 1933, what was Nazism? Revenge against the Jewish people, and of course the quote-unquote November criminals, the Weimar Republic, and all that. So, and that means one thing: innocent people are going to get killed.
Well, it's interesting.
Complete your thought, and then I want to ask Matthew how close this comes to Nazism.
Oh, I think what we're seeing. Go ahead, Jerry. Go ahead.
The point I was going to make is about the retribution. Right now, you're seeing the retribution being aimed at Adam Schiff.
Yeah.
Orchestrated through Jim Jordan and this congresswoman from Florida, Luna, whatever her name is.
Yeah.
And it's being orchestrated by Trump. Trump is telling Jordan what to do, and there's no reason Adam Schiff should be censured. He's being censured for doing his job.
Right.
And that's unbelievable. He did everything right, and the Congress, the Democrats yelling shame on the floor was appropriate because what they did was totally shameful. And remember last week they had a vote, and there were 20 Republicans that voted against the censure, and Trump said they should be primaried. So they lost their nerve because they were afraid of getting primaried in the next election.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, I think what you're seeing is the Nazification of the GOP. I mean, it's so naked. I mean, with the debt ceiling thing, I mean, there was a sizable portion that really wanted to take the national economy and, by extension, the world economy over the cliff. I mean, luckily McCarthy and Biden were able to work out the agreement and to keep things going. But you still have a threat of a shutdown at the end of this fiscal year, at the end of September there. But, I mean, you're seeing it step by step, inch by inch. They don't care about fiscal health. If they want to destroy the whole country to seize power, they will do so. I mean, that's what fascist movements do. They don't care if millions of people die or if the economy gets destroyed. As long as power is attained and maintained and then held ad infinitum, at through the use of violence and terrorism, that's all that matters to them.
Well, Trump proved his psychosis by the COVID experience. He knew people were dying, and no better reflected in the governor of New Jersey's hate for him, because like Jerry and I talked about a few weeks ago, I can't even think of his name, the governor.
Around the present day Murphy? We're talking about Murphy, or are you talking about old Chris Christie? Chris Christie.
Christie stood behind Trump right until he contracted COVID at a party that Trump knew he had COVID, and he gave it to him. And that's the only reason that he's so upset. If he was that upset, he wouldn't have let Trump go as long as he did. He was right by his side in every way. And I don't blame Trump as much as I blame his enablers for all of this. If they didn't give him carte blanche all the way through, it wouldn't have enforced his craziness. So let's list, if you guys would help me list the people who are most responsible for Trump's, and Pence is one of them. Pence stood by him until he was threatened himself. And
I mean, you got Pence, you got Jim Jordan, you got Marjorie, Taylor Greene, you got Gates, Gates, whatever his name is, you got Lindsey Graham, the enablers. They're all working towards the Führer. I mean, that's how you get this. At the state level, you got Abbott of Texas, you got. Even DeSantis at first was working towards the Führer, but now he's become a Nazi in his own right, and all that. But there's this massive enabling because they all want the money, they all want the power. I mean, basically what Trump did was he empowered people who should not under any circumstances be wielding power, but he gave them access to power. And you're seeing these people at the state level, at the local level, and state legislatures inflicting enormous harm against non-white peoples, against all American women, against the LGBTQ plus community, and people like us, who oppose Trumpism. It's a total overthrow of the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. I mean, it's a massive working towards the Führer, like as it was under Nazi Germany. I mean, without that working towards the Führer, you would not have the Holocaust.
There were some other people that you mentioned, and that includes Roger Stone. It includes Michael Flynn. It includes Manafort. All these guys were bad actors, and all the people that they put in, they had Secretary of Defense Jim Mattis. They had the guy from. They had whoever it was, even his chief of staff, John Kelly. These were competent people. They were competent people. Anybody that was competent got fired, got rid of, because he didn't like them telling him you can't do that. It's not what you do, and that's why they got canned. And what they did with Michael Flynn, and what Bill Barr and the Justice Department did when Flynn pleaded guilty twice, and then Barr came in and they wanted to have the sentence reduced to nothing. Remember that? And they had guys at the Department of Justice quit, and then they had Roger Stone, he pardoned, and he pardoned Flynn too, and who else? Manafort got a pardon, and he pardoned Rod Blagojevich for whatever reason. So anybody that he did all these things. And we haven't even talked about the January 6th indictments that are coming down the pike, or the indictments coming from Georgia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the January 6th indictment probably will have a stronger thing, because that can be adjudicated in Washington, D.C., where I think you've got better odds of securing conviction, as opposed to the government the secret documents case, in Florida there, which of course, that's a cracker state and a pro-Trump state. I think if you're going to get juice, I think the Manhattan DA case has got legs and got a strong case for conviction, and I think the January 6th case is probably going to be a strong case for conviction, since that can be prosecuted in Washington, D.C. The Georgia case, they may have all the evidence in the world, but you've got Kemp as governor. Even if you secure a conviction, I will bet you a pound to a penny, Kemp would simply wipe its slate clean. And also, I heard reports that the Georgia state legislature, the Republicans, they want to see what the indictment was saying. They have this idea of just totally defunding D.A. Willis, who's working this case. Just totally defunding her and cutting off her water and all that. So I'm not holding out too much hope. I mean, I wish Willis all the best, in her indictment, but I don't see that thing really getting any type of a conviction. I think the Manhattan DA case and the January 6th case, I think that's the one with the strongest legs.
Yeah, it's interesting. If he's convicted and goes to jail, can he still be elected president?
Technically, yes, but I know, like the Democrats, if they can get back the House, I think there's talk about passing a bill and others. If you're convicted of a felony, you lose your pension, you lose this, you can't run, yada yada yada, yada yada yada, and so forth and all that. And so I think it's imperative that we get back the House and maintain the Senate, so we at least can pass a code of ethics that put the Supreme Court, get them back under control again. Maybe expand. I mean, MSNBC, there was a Massachusetts senator said he wants to expand it to 13 justices. Hopefully get the Supreme Court back, to restore integrity again to the Supreme Court, considering all that we're hearing about, Thomas being being bought off, Alito being bought off, so on and so forth.
Would a lot of the problems we're going through now be solved if the judge handling it in Florida imposed a simple gag order?
She won't do it. She's a pro-Trump judge. Not going to happen, man. Not going to happen. You notice he condemned the judge in the Manhattan DA case, right? I don't think he has said one peep about Judge Cannon, because remember before, when the investigators started a year ago, she tried to roadblock it, man, and it took the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals to slap her down and smack her, and say, hey, you're out of line, because she was out of line.
Well, what I think is, on the gag order, I think it's better to let Trump speak. He keeps confessing to all these things, and Jack Smith can use everything he says against him. Yep. Everything. Yeah. And they look what happened with the E. Jean Carroll case. The day after they had that judgment, he went out and defamed her the next day. And the second part of the trial, the judge has said that can be introduced as evidence, and they've already proved that he's a sexual abuser and defamer. So it's just a matter of how much more money she's going to get in the case. It's the same judge that ruled against him in the first place on the E. Jean Carroll case. So that doesn't look good for him. And why anyone, and I have given this thought, seeing all the stuff that's coming out, and if you pay attention to the facts of the case, not what Fox is telling you or what Newsmax or One America, if you look at the facts, I can't understand how any rational person could ever support this guy. I just don't get it.
So I'll put it this way, Jerry. In a sense, when you sell your soul to the devil, you can't unsell it. Once you could sell you got to go all the way. In other words, all those enablers, they either succeed in overthrowing democracy and imposing Donald's dictatorship, or else they will just take the whole country over the cliff with them. It's either victory or death with them. So it doesn't matter what the facts are. It doesn't matter what the law is, because they're dedicated to overthrowing the Constitution and the Bill of Rights and all our freedoms, because they want to create that Nazi regime, that dictatorship. And once they do, then they go after all of us. Really go after all of us. And it's like, it's like 1933 to 45 all over again. A new Holocaust, a 21st century Holocaust, a 21st century Kristallnacht. I have a friend in academia. He does research at my facility. He teaches in Western Pennsylvania. And he and his colleague, he told me this. We had a conversation because he's like us. He's just as concerned as we are. He has this thing is they have a betting pool, not if the Kristallnacht, the 21st century Kristallnacht happens, but when. Not if, but when. And I'm totally convinced that if he gets it all back again next year, his very first act and when he's inaugurated, or even before that, is he proclaims martial law. He gets his Proud Boys and his Oath Keepers and his Klansmen and creates them as a special constabulary, give them power to arrest and kill anyone, and that's exactly what they're going to do. They're just going to fan out throughout the whole of the country, and then they're going to come after all of us.
Wow.
That's my belief. Yeah, that's my belief. Yeah.
Well, years ago, I lost my brother in 1995, 28 years ago. And he used to say that it could happen here.
Yeah.
That anti-Semitism and the Ku Klux Klan and their hatred simmers just below the surface.
Yeah.
And when there's a crack in the surface, these people come out of the woodwork and start spreading their hate.
Yeah.
Yes, they will go after the blacks. Yes, they'll go after the Jews.
Yeah.
The KKK will go after the Catholics. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And of course, we have a Muslim population too here in this country, and they'll go after them too. Yeah. And it's I don't understand it, but there's an awful lot of hate in this country, and there's a lot this country has to answer for enslaving people for 300 years, and it's still out there, and it's a shame.
Yeah, I mean, in my area, I just heard on the news today that some neighborhood, I think was it a black neighborhood or a predominantly Jewish neighborhood, there were anti-Semitic flyers being posted on telephone poles, and then like a couple months ago, someone detonated an incendiary device in the woods in somewhere like Monmouth County, New Jersey. It was near a very heavily Jewish neighborhood. Luckily, no one got hurt, but the fact that you're igniting an incendiary device very close to a Jewish neighborhood, hey, who's kidding who, right?
Well, look what happened in Pittsburgh at the synagogue.
Yeah. And they convicted the bastard. They got him, but still, innocent people died. They were butchered.
Yeah, and the same thing happened in the black church in South Carolina. A white guy went in there and mowed down 9 people. Yeah. And it's unbelievable. Just as an aside, so you mentioned Kristallnacht, which was November 9th, 1938. Yeah. I have to tell you, that is my exact date of birth. I was born on Kristallnacht. And it's just amazing. So when you tell it, here's one Jewish guy born in the United States, and it just shows that they couldn't get all of us. I know. But we have to bear witness, man, all of us. That's why we're here tonight. Yeah. We've got to bear witness. We've got to, light flames in people and get them motivated. And, we got to save our rights, man. Next year, man, again, our fate, life, our democracy, everything hangs in the balance here, and either we have to get them or they're going to get us. Definitely they're going to get us. I mean, that I have no doubt about that.
What can we do as individuals to reverse this?
Jerry, you go first, Jerry. You go first.
Well, the first we have to watch out for stuff like people like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert saying this is a Christian nation. The founding fathers were very, very clear that there is no religion, no national religion. Yeah. You can have any kind of religion that you want, and of course, these people that want the white Christian nationalists, they just want to dominate. It's our way or the highway. Yeah. It's our way or the highway. This is a tactic of the fascists. It's exactly what they're doing.
Yeah. Actually, when you think about it, Jerry, they're trying to establish a national religion. You know how you spell it? G-U-N. That's the name of that religion, G-U-N. Yeah. Right. And at least that's how they spell the name of God, G-U-N instead of G-O-D. and all that. But I mean, 8 years ago, this Trumpite, was trying to forcibly convert me to his little militia Christianity. That's the term I call this thing now, militia Christianity. You know what he said to me? He said I wasn't a real Christian, because, okay, I admit it, I'm Catholic and all that. I'm not a real Christian, I'm godless. He said, you're not supposed to think and you're not supposed to read, you're supposed to obey. And he said I was worshiping a false Christ, and on his wall is this colored illustration of the Fuhrer, the Donald, with a divine aura on his face. And I thought, talk about the pot calling the kettle. And Bengali was no schmuck.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Just like Hitler, man. Yeah.
Okay, now I'm Johnny Lunchbucket. What can I do to make a difference?
You got to vote. You got to get other people to vote. You got to bear witness to the truth. I mean, what Schiff does, smash them in the face with the truth. Get the word out. We got to mobilize, man. We cannot sit on our hands. We can't rest on our laurels, man. We have to mobilize. We got to keep, because they're trying to undermine voters with these voter suppression laws, man. You got to regain the courts. You got to regain the state legislatures, the local county things. Everything. It's grassroots, man. You got to keep mobilizing. I mean, young kids, like the young Bernie-crats, man, they got to keep registering, man, because hey, those kids are going to be losing their freedoms too. I mean, young women. I mean, they're losing control of their bodies. I mean, half the population are being reduced to sexual subjugation. I mean, when you look at it, that's exactly what it is. It's sexual subjugation. I mean, this is unconscionable. Half the population is in the crosshairs. I mean, it's a war, and basically we got to roll up our sleeves and we got to fight ourselves, all of us.
Right.
Yeah. Matthew's making good points. Especially getting out to vote. I think that the suburban women, we have to remind them of what they've lost, and not let, and they have to vote for candidates that support abortion.
Yeah.
That women have abortion rights. And you've seen in the states, remember in Kansas, they wanted to put it in the state constitution and got voted down.
Yeah.
And they're continuing to the so-called pro-life. They're not really pro-life because they don't really give a damn what happens after the baby is born.
Yeah.
They want to stop the drug mifepristone, which is used, the tablet they use for the abortion, being mailed in. The FDA has recognized it as a drug, and they're interfering with interstate commerce. And you have to remember that the supremacy clause of the United States cannot be infringed upon. If laws are in conflict with the United States, the United States wins. States cannot take over their functions, and if the drug is approved by the FDA, and that's for the whole country, the states can't say you can't use it. So there'll be a court case on that basis.
But here's another thing, Jerry. I read something on the internet that said even on local and county levels, I've been hearing things like Oath Keepers and Proud Boys. They kind of go to like county sheriffs, local law enforcement, and give them seminars on how to, quote unquote, defy federal laws. In other words, refuse to execute, federal laws like civil rights laws, equal rights laws, and reproductive rights laws, designed to protect. In other words, a deliberate defiance of federal will, at not just at state levels, but at county levels and even municipal levels. And that's going on nationwide. So that's another threat too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the only way you can expose them is perhaps tip off the newspapers as to what's going on. If you have some leads as to that, and have it be exposed.
And that's what happened. That's where I read that. You're getting newspapers, like Washington Post, New York Times, and other major newspapers. They're revealing these things. They're going out in the hinterland, and you're seeing these things. And it is a clear and present danger, not just on a national level, but even on the localized level. You're seeing this resistance, this deliberate defiance, of the Bill of Rights and our voting rights and our legal protections established by the Constitution.
Yeah, one of the problems that we have in the states is that the state legislatures in many states do the redistricting after the census. Here in California, we have a non-political commission that does the redistricting. So neither party is involved in that. And maybe we need a constitutional amendment to make, or maybe the Congress, if it becomes Democratic in the next election, to create a law that says that the state legislatures no longer can control the redistricting after the census. It has to be done by an independent, impartial commission, and maybe that will solve some of the problems.
Luckily, there was that recent Supreme Court decision that basically told Alabama your gerrymandering is not allowed, and they have to, in other words, you have to redistrict and make it fair. At least one more county that allows African Americans who form the majority of the voters there, to have an extra seat and all of that. I mean, that was a rare victory for us and all of that. I mean, that was a shocker, but at least thank God for that, because it was so blatantly obvious what they were doing in Alabama was trying to disenfranchise the African American voter.
Yeah, and the other thing that we have to do is to organize in the 6 swing states that exist, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania. Here, California, the votes in California are less worthy than the votes in Wyoming. Yeah. Wyoming has, a voter in Wyoming has more power than a voter in California. And in the election in 2020, California had something like 6 million more votes for Biden than for Trump, and it really didn't matter. It didn't really help Biden, and that's why I say they have maybe 20 states with 40 senators that are all Republican, and they don't even have the population of California, and we have 2 senators. We don't have the same representation in the Senate. Yeah. We are overwhelmed by the rural states, and that's not right.
Yeah, and you got to break the filibuster too. I mean, like in Arizona, you've got Ruben Gallego. He's going against Kristen Sinema, for the primer, and hopefully he wins because he's totally committed to getting rid of the filibuster. But you still got Manchin still playing his games and all that.
Oh,
so
absolutely.
You got to break that filibuster. That too, it's imperative.
I remember being devastated when Trump won for one reason only, because I didn't know the extent of his craziness at that point. But I did know that he was going to control the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
Is there anything that can be done now? You guys mentioned maybe making it 13 Supreme Court members. What's it going to take to do that? Do you need the consent of the Supreme Court to increase?
Strictly an act of Congress. You got to get back the House and also get enough Democratic senators that can overcome Manchin's roadblocking of the filibuster. And then, the size of the Supreme Court is mandated by Congress and only by Congress. There's no stipulation as to size in the Constitution itself. I mean, if that in 1869, because they were talking about this the other night on MSNBC, the reason why it was 9 is that in 1869, it was tied into the number of circuit courts of appeals throughout America. There was one justice for each circuit court, and back in 1869, there were now 9 circuit courts, but today we have 13. So actually, by expanding to 13, you would have 1 justice for each circuit there. So it's technically, it's in consonance with old law there. It's not like, radical new law and all that. It would be placing it in consonance with what we got now, considering the size of the country. And also back then, 1869, we only had like 38 million people, as opposed now we're over 300 million people. So it makes sense in that, in that thing. All you need is an act of Congress. That's all you need. You don't need the Supreme Court to approve it. All you just need is the Congress to pass it, and it is done.
This doesn't have to go through the Senate at all?
Yeah, both houses.
No, okay.
Oh, yeah. And keep in mind that the appeals courts that they, like the 11th Circuit and the 9th Circuit, they have, I think they have 23 justices on there. They can have as many justices as they need to handle the work. They're not restricted to 9 justices or 13 justices. They have more.
Yeah,
and,
I don't know. It varies. I'm not sure it's the size. I mean, I'll take your word for it, Jerry. I have to look that up in terms of variety. I mean, the thing is about that 11th Circuit Court of Appeals, one of the most conservative circuit court of appeals in America, and they slapped down that Judge Cannon. That is damning when you think about it. That just goes to show you how incompetent she is when you think about that. When even conservative courts slap her down, that's telling you something.
Right.
Well, I think that on MSNBC they were discussing the fact that her court is in Fort Pierce, and they won't have adequate security for it. They're thinking of moving the venue to West Palm Beach, and if she could handle that because I don't think Fort Pierce is that far from West Palm Beach. I think that Jack Smith is going to ask that she be recused. She will not give it up herself, but we'll see what happens on that.
Yeah. I mean, right now you got the date of August 14th, but I don't think that's really going to happen. I mean, the prosecution already gave its full discovery to the defense team, and of course it's considerable with the tapes, the documents, Trump's own statements to the press, and all that. I mean, basically the defense is not going to be in any hurry to go forward with this thing. I mean, it's an interesting thing that August 14th, because I think the first GOP debate is around that time, so that's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
I
want to see that.
What's also interesting.
But who do you prefer? Do you prefer Pence, DeSantis? I mean,
none of them. I mean, with the exception of Asa Hutchinson, I don't think any of them have a chance because you got so many of them. Basically, Rick Scott of Florida is thinking about jumping into this race too. Actually, that hurts the idea of ousting Trump with the GOP because all Trump has to do is maintain his core, his fascist core, and all the others are just dissipating the anti-Trump vote. So no, actually, the more the merrier. That helps Trump out enormously. I bet you he's even encouraging them to expand the field because that really helps them out. And also, I read something. He's been prevailing upon those pro-Trump governors to convert their primaries to winner-take-all instead of proportional like the Democrats do. And they're all in the states where he's really heavily favored, those early states. And if he can just win, he can pile up a margin instantaneously and just leave everyone else in the ditch. So I have no doubt he can pull it off when they get the nomination. I have no doubt in my mind.
Let's assume he's convicted. He goes to jail. Can he still win the presidency?
Hypothetically, yes. That's what I've heard. Hypothetically, yeah.
Well,
hypothetically.
the other thing is, would the Secret Service be in jail with him?
I think they have to. Yeah, they can't leave him. So hypothetically, yeah. Seriously. I've heard that on MSNBC. I've heard it. Hypothetically, yeah.
Now, I have one other question, and then I'll let you guys expound on what you've been talking about.
Yeah.
Can he pardon himself if he gets elected?
No. I don't. Yeah, I think they have it in the law in the Justice Department that no man can be his own judge and jury. So
I don't know, because don't laugh. In that book by Woodward and Bernstein, Nixon, The Final Days, Nixon asked for the Justice Department for a ruling, can a president pardon himself? And they said, yes, he can. And from what I gathered, the pardon power is absolutely unlimited. I think hypothetically it can be done. Sorry about that. I mean, I wish it wasn't.
No, that's okay.
Hypothetically, yeah. I mean, I posted this once on Facebook. Actually, if I were the Biden administration, if he pulled a stunt, well, I take that back. That is thing. I mean, if he gets it all back in, it's a moot point because he would declare martial law and he wouldn't have to pardon himself because he would just overthrow democracy and just rule by dictatorship and all that. So it would be irrelevant about pardoning and all that. It'd be utterly irrelevant when you think about it.
Wow, that's scary as hell. And I mean, I had ancestors that suffered the same fate.
Yeah.
Basically.
I know. I know. I mean, yeah, I know. Like that thing I posted about the anniversary of the Warsaw Ghetto, man. I mean, hey, you know, they had a choice: either die in a concentration camp or die fighting. They chose to die fighting. You know, as free as they could be, individuals and all that. And may God rest their souls.
Yes.
Yeah. God rest all their souls.
God rest our souls, for crying out loud.
I know, man. I mean, you know, it's scary, man. I mean, you know, we're on a razor's edge, man. And I mean, who knows? I mean, you know, if he comes back, I mean, 2 years from now, will any of us be alive? Any one of us? I mean, I wonder to myself, you know, will I ever live to see will I make it the age 65? Will I live to see 2030? I mean, I'm going to be 60 in August. Will I live to be 70? You know, considering all that's going on here. You know, that's why we got to bear witness. That's why we're here now, trying to bear witness to the truth, trying to open people's eyes and try to, you know, light fires, man, that can, you know, save our country.
Now I want to know, and I've been trying to figure out women all my life, so it's been very difficult for me. How could a woman faced with losing freedom of her own body ever vote for these people? I mean, what goes into their thinking?
I don't know.
If it doesn't scare them to lose control of their bodies, what will scare them?
I don't know, man. Well, hey, when you know, it's like, why did people follow Manson, man? They actually believed he was Christ. They really believed that. Yeah. Even though he treated them like filth, they worshipped him. They really believed he was Christ, and they were willing to kill and murder for him. So it's the same mentality, man. I mean, basically, Manson and Trump are flip sides of the same debased counterfeit currency, man. The same thing, man. Just like Manson.
Well, good analogy. That's a very good analogy. I hadn't thought of that before.
And remember, Manson worshipped Hitler. He worshipped Hitler. Yeah, it's on record. He worshipped him. I mean, was it one Manson family member said at trial he was a cooperating witness? One of the prosecutors asked him, did he have a view on Hitler? And he said this. He said, Charlie Manson thought Hitler was a tuned-in guy who, and I quote, leveled the karma of the Jews, unquote. Wow. Yeah.
Wow. Indeed. Oh.
Yeah.
Crazy world. Gentlemen, give me something positive to add of all of this.
Well, Ralph, I'm looking... Oh, go ahead.
No, Jerry.
Oh, okay.
Oh, Jerry.
Well, I'm looking forward to the both trials, and you mentioned earlier, I think Alvin Bragg is going to nail him in New York, and then hopefully the J6 will not only will get Trump, but get all his buddies. And they will go just like with Nixon. So many members of the John Mitchell and Magruder and Gordon Liddy and Haldeman, Ehrlichman, all those guys paid the price, and that should be the same scenario for the people surrounding Trump. Guys like Eastman, Giuliani, Bannon, and that group, Roger Stone, they all have to pay the price for doing what they did.
What I like to see is the exposure of like Hawley, Cruz, Green, the ones who were walking them through the Proud Boys through the halls, showing them access points. I like to see them, but you know, in the dock too, you know, in an indictment as well. Because hey, I think they were there. I think they were co-conspiring. You know, they wanted it to happen. Though I'm convinced that if they actually captured them all, I think he would have executed all of them, including both Republicans and Democrats. I think they were all going to get killed. I think he was going to double-cross them all. Because when you think about it, in a dictatorship, you don't need a Congress and you don't need a Supreme Court. I think he would have butchered all of them.
Well, and there should be, like you mentioned, Hawley and those guys, and Gates and Cruz, and Jim Jordan. They should be charged with obstruction of justice right now. They're doing it right now with what's going on. Marjorie Taylor Greene, all these people. Yeah, they deserve to be in jail too.
Yeah, they were there. They were aiders and abettors before, during, and after the fact. Yeah, absolutely, positively. Yeah.
Matthew, can you give me something to hang my hat on at all?
We cannot relax. We have to maintain. I mean, there are times when I get tired, but you know what I do? I go on YouTube and I listen to the very first session of the Eichmann trial, Adolf Eichmann, where they read the indictment against Eichmann, just count one itself. And I remind myself there can be no quit, no white flag, because if there's a white flag from us, then the charges that they recite against Eichmann will be perpetrated on us here in the 21st century. So no surrender. There can be no quit. We've got to keep fighting. There can be no relaxation. No matter how tired we are, we've got to reach deep inside ourselves and keep bearing witness and keep fighting, keep voting, and keep encouraging others to fight and vote and bear witness to the truth and uphold democracy and fight the good fight and win.
Hey, Matthew,
very well
thank you for our marching orders.
Thank you.
And great way to end the podcast. Thanks, gentlemen. You are terrific. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Love you guys. Love you both. Okay.
I love you.
Same too.
Right.
Back at you, Matthew and Ralph.
Take care.
You got it.
Okay.
Bye.
Be healthy, guys. Let's make the next reunion considerably shorter than a year.
Yes, absolutely. Okay.
Talk soon. Be well. Thanks for listening, everybody. Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. I'm Ralph Tycho, the weak link of it all. Matthew DiBiase and Jerry Feitelberg are great guests. Keep coming back, guys.
Love you, man. Okay.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
The proceeding has been a Comfortably Zoned network production. You are advised to keep your dreams wet, your humor dry, your children and grandchildren out of military recruiting offices and off the laps of clerics who wear dresses. Thank you for listening, everyone. Happy trails.